In this video, I am joined by the one, the only Mr. Jay Sherer and Tonez Poppy in the house today. We're talking all about that Deadpool trailer. We're also going to talk about this Universal Studios tram accident, and we're also going to dive into the fandom. Has it gotten too toxic, or has fandom really not changed? We're going to talk about it. We're going to break it down up next on OG55. Welcome aboard, everybody, to another episode of OG55. I have a fantastic panel with me today. The Italiano, by the way, is still on vacation. You know, when the Italiano vacations, he vacations. You know what I'm saying?
Like he's living it up, dude.
Living it up.
He unbuttons a couple extra buttons on his shirt just to let it all out there.
Exactly. Let the chest hair show a little bit for all the sexy women out there. But Tonez, I'm gonna start with you, man. It's good to have you back, and if you could let everybody at home know where they can find you on social media.
Yeah, you know, I love being here. Thank you so much for inviting me. Love talking to you two gentlemen, of course. Yeah, if you guys want to find me on social media, Tonez_TV on all platforms. You can find my podcast, the Bad Thoughts Podcast, with me and the Candy Camper on YouTube, Bad Thoughts Podcast on Spotify as well. And if you guys like TV shows, movies, and cinema in general, Bad Thoughts Studios, we do a whole bunch of movie reviews, reactions, stuff like that. So Bad Thoughts Studios on YouTube.
There he is. And right over here, the one and only Mr. Jay Sherer. It is fantastic having you back, brother.
Oh, it's always a good time to be here. Every time I miss like a week or two that I'm not on the show, man, I miss those guys. I gotta go back to that show. And I gotta share this too, because Tonez told me last year, he goes, can you give me your address because I want to send you something? I'm like, oh yeah, dude, for sure. Like, I give him my address, and then I forget that I give him my address, and I get something in the mail, and I go, and it's from Anthony, last name redacted. I won't say what is it? And I go, I'm like, who, and I'll show you what it is, because you'll know why I messaged OG. But I'm like, OG, who the fuck is Anthony? How does he have my address, and why is he sending me this stuff? And then he's like, it's Tonez, bro. I'm like, oh, of course it's Tonez. And Tonez is the man, dude. Look what he sent me. He sent me a Disney Channel magazine. It's so cool. I'm gonna put this up in the studio somewhere. But Tonez is the man, and he has a great channel too. So please go check out Bad Thoughts Studio. Bad Thoughts Podcast, because I've been on there multiple times, and it's always an absolute blast. So shout out to Tonez. But yeah, I'm here. I'm excited to be here. Find me on How Stories Work with Jay Sherer. We still got the short film coming out later this year. So we've had production delays and all that kind of good stuff. This is what happens when you're making movies. So it's no problem. But yeah, pretty soon, I'm hoping to do a screening of it. I was just telling these guys, hoping to do a screening of it out in California, probably something out in Colorado, probably something out on the East Coast too, probably Florida. So stay tuned. We'll be out there with the movies pretty soon.
Absolutely, and we'll keep you all updated. Once the short film drops, you will definitely know about it here on OG55. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. And on Bad Thoughts. You will hear stuff on Bad Thoughts as well.
And Bad Thoughts as well. All right, gentlemen, let's dive into our first topic. I figure we'll start with the park stuff, and then we'll get into the studio stuff. This happened the other day over the weekend. This is kind of crazy. This is from AP. 15 people injured when tram collides with guardrail at Universal Studios theme park near Los Angeles. So
real quick, OG, is that the guardrail that it ran into? The one right there?
No. This is the entrance to the park. Yeah, this and it says here that more than a dozen people suffered mostly minor injuries when a tram used for tours crashed into a railing at Universal Studios Hollywood. Authorities and the company said. So LA Fire Department units responded shortly after 9 p.m. on Saturday to the theme park in Universal City, about 10 miles northwest of downtown LA. It says here that the California Highway Patrol said that while the tram was negotiating a turn, its last car collided with a metal guardrail, causing it to tilt and eject multiple passengers from the tram. This is absolutely wild. When I heard this story, I saw it like on Twitter. I'm like, how can because the tram moves very, very slow. It's not a high speed thing at all. How
That's
can
15, where my head was going. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. How could 15 people get injured on this thing? Now it makes sense. My overall thoughts on this, and then I'll go to you, Jay. You know, here's my thing. A lot of people get on Disney like, oh man, when things break down, and I defend Disney. I'm like, hey, these are mechanical things that will break eventually. Things happen. Nothing is flawless. And I'm going to say the same thing with Universal. The tram had, from what I understand, some brake issues or whatever. Mechanical issues happen. It's horrible. I don't want to see anyone ever get hurt. But, you know, look, if I go to Universal, I trust them. I do still feel safe there. I mean, one accident isn't going to change that. And as unfortunate as it is, things break. You know what I'm saying? I say the same thing with Disney. When fans pile on Disney and say, oh my gosh, how could this happen? Same thing here. It happens. It sucks. It's unfortunate. And of course, we're praying and hoping everyone makes a full recovery. But that's kind of where I'm at with this whole thing. But what about you, Jay? Then I'll go to Tones.
So first thing I have to say is it sounds like they were all minor injuries. Somebody said that if you read the whole article, it says there might have been one or two moderate injuries. We definitely do. I definitely don't want what I'm about to say to sound callous or like that I'm picking on anybody. Because I really do hope these people are safe and sound. And it sounds like it was not a big deal. And because it sounds like it was not a big deal, this article is hilarious, dude. Because I could just see so many different things where you imagine the tram crew, they're like, because you know all the rides at Universal and Disney, they always have this history of being like, oh, we made the wrong turn, and like, you made the wrong turn, and then you got people falling out of the tram. Like that's hilarious. Like I can't. Like, that's too funny.
Like how many people actually thought it was part of the experience?
Like they put actors in the back and they just dumped them on the side of the road. This is unbelievable. The other thing is, if you scroll down to the bottom of this article, OG, the other thing that made me laugh about it. If you go down, where was it? Here at the bottom, right? I think highway patrol investigation drugs and alcohols were not considered a factor. The other thing that I was laughing about is they end the article. The last sentence of the article is, the theme park will celebrate the 60th anniversary of the tour starting Friday. Right. Like, talking about a bummer, dude.
Oh, man.
It's the 60th anniversary and the thing's crashing. It's such a bummer. So I had to laugh a little bit at this one. But at the same time, like I said, like if anybody was really injured and this was a serious problem, first of all, Universal's lying to us if that was the case. So I hope that that's not true. But I can imagine if you're on this tram, this is the last thing you expect to happen. You're getting dumped out. That's wild. On a slow tram ride. And I would say this though, in defense of Universal, I would not be surprised if this A, has happened at Disney, and B, it's just what's been covered up. I mean, let's go back in time. The tram used to be, watch a video from the 60s or the 50s. That tram, not only did it have no doors, people were just piling on, like, and it was like you could fall off no problem. And as a culture, as we get more and more, safety oriented, now all the trams at Disney have doors. They all have doors you got to open to get out, and they always tell you can't sit a kid on the outside. So, we live in a very, especially California, is a very lawsuit heavy state. So I'm sure that these people are all going to receive lifetime Universal Studios access. Any movie they want to see for free, Universal's going to comp it. Hopefully, again, they're not injured seriously. But these things happen. I don't think it's really that big of a deal. It kind of made me laugh because the story was written in such a word that I thought it was kind of funny. And the fact that their 60th anniversary is coming up, also hilarious. I mean, if I were Universal and no one is seriously injured, because again, it's not funny if anybody's seriously injured, but if no one's seriously injured and they're all going to comp everybody and everybody's going to be good to go, if I were Universal, I would start making jokes about this on the tram, dude. Like, if you're in the last seat on the tram, you might be ejected during this tour. I mean, I would just roll with it. I think it's unfortunate, but again, it doesn't sound like it's super serious, and this stuff happens.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Like you said, it's not super serious. It's minor to moderate. It seems like everyone's going to make a full recovery. And like you were saying, Jay, things happen. I mean, whenever you have anything that's mechanical, whether it be a vehicle or an attraction or whatever it is, it's bound to break sometimes. It's kind of ironic though that this, like you were saying, Jay, like this is the thing that caused 15 people to get injured, because there's a lot of stuff at Universal that throws you around.
Right.
This is the thing.
This is the thing, dude.
Blows my mind. Tones, Poppy, what do you think, brother?
So 2 things. Okay, I mean, if you sit down in any kind of vehicle, just expect the worst. Like I've always done it. Like I've always expected the worst. Like as far as like crashing, you know what I'm saying? Like I know most likely it's not gonna happen, but my kind of luck, it will. But you're in a vehicle. You're moving things. Shit happens, you know. And no one's perfect. That's why I go within that mindset like that. Like expect something to happen. Hopefully nothing does. Unfortunately, something did happen in this situation, but it's like it's not a huge. Obviously, if someone did get seriously hurt, we hope they get better. We're not saying what happened to you was a joke, but you know things happen. It wasn't driven by a drunk person or someone under the influence of anything. Like you're in. How long is those trams? Like 15 cars long or something like that. Like they're huge.
Yeah, they're
like
huge.
You can't be perfect all the time. You know, truck drivers drive these huge 18-wheelers. You hear of multiple crashes a day. So it's like, I know you're not going to that kind of speed, but it's just, to me, this is like it sucks that it happened, but don't go into Universal thinking it's going to be happening every time. Like this is not an everyday occurrence. So I just hope that they don't get people who come in and just don't want to do it because they once crashed. I just think that's a dumb way to look at it, in my opinion.
Yeah. Now if Boeing,
I know that. Just let me say this real quick, and then I'll let you jump in. I know that George is visiting Universal Studios Hollywood this week, right?
Yes.
So, was this a female tram driver who was distracted by George's chest hair? Is that the cause? Because it could be the cause. I think we got to get to the bottom of this.
Yep.
You might be onto some. You know, it was a little too much sexy for her. She just, you know, she was like, oh wow.
That's right. A little too much on that turn because he was staring at George.
Does that mean she got in a sticky situation?
Yeah, exactly. That's hilarious. I was just to say, you know, hey, the trams are safe, but as long as they're not built by Boeing, I think we're good. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. I think it would be funny though if anybody wants to show up to Universal tomorrow, just in elbow pads and knee pads and a helmet and be like, I'm riding the tram today. I'm not sure. I would support that behavior.
Oh, just going like a goalie outfit, like a goalie,
exactly,
like playing hockey.
Exactly.
Oh man,
like that kid from the Mighty Duck.
Yeah, exactly.
Fantastic. But yeah, we all wish everybody that got hurt well. It looks like it's pretty minor, and it's a fluke accident. Things are going to happen, and I'm sure Universal will handle it. From what I understand too, is actually Universal is in the process of transitioning their trams to newer electric trams, I believe. So they haven't made that full transition yet. From what I understand, this one was one of the older ones. So,
and one more thing before we jump off of this, I mean, thank God it was only a tram that something like this happened and not something, you know, something traumatic and worse, like a roller coaster or whatever the case may be. Like a tram is probably the best outcome in this situation, in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Because of the speed, it's so slow, you know? Yeah, if this thing was going really fast, you would have had a lot more injuries if people were ejected like that, you know?
I will say this too. Shout out to tram drivers, because those tram drivers go day in, day out with virtually no incidents. I mean, the fact that there's an incident here after 60 years that the tram has been in service, like the number of incidents has got to be pretty low compared to how many miles those things are driving every single day.
Oh,
so,
absolutely.
To Tone's point, like, it's not happening. It's not like you have to like all of a sudden not take your kids on the tram because it's dangerous.
Right. And that's gotta be hard too, right? With how long those are, dude. Like to sort of adjust as you're turning and sort of adjust like how you can clear it and everything. That's gotta be tough, man.
You see those Disney people and they just go like this, and then everything just starts following it perfectly. I'm like, I don't know how you did that, but that's cool to watch, man.
They make it look easy, but it does. I don't think it's so easy. You know?
Exactly.
And they're all connected too. So it's like if one goes, most of them are gonna go with it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's wild. It's wild. So let's dive into this Deadpool and Wolverine trailer that dropped the other day. Now, full disclosure, I haven't seen this yet. But Jay and Tones, they did see it. It's only like a couple minutes. We're gonna play it and we'll talk about it. Now, gentlemen, if you want to pause it along the way to say something, just let me know. Just say, hey, OG, and I'll pause it. No worries.
Okay.
All right, here we go.
I told you, you're not welcome here. You're not welcome anywhere. Now get the fuck out of my bar.
Just give me one more drink and then I'll leave.
Hi, Peanut. I'm gonna need you to come with me right now.
Look, lady, I'm not interested.
All right, well, I'm sort of on the tick, so upsy daisy. Here we go.
Oh, whiskey dick of the claws. It's quite common in Wolverines over 40.
You don't want this.
Unless you want to take a deep breath through your fucking forehead, I suggest you reconsider.
Wait, can I just tell you guys, how is this trailer so funny this fast?
No, it gets better. Don't worry. It gets.
You know what I thought was fascinating? Just to stop here. I'm shocked. Not on Ryan Reynolds' channel, but on the Marvel Entertainment channel, this was not red banded. There was no red band. Like, heads up, people, they're gonna say the F word 10 times in the trailer. You know what I mean? Like, that was a bold choice. I know that's why they made it, because they want to send the message that, like, look, we're letting Ryan Reynolds do his thing as Deadpool. This is not nerfed. But on the other hand, you got to imagine that a bunch of kids are going to watch this, and it's like, okay, that was a bold move on Marvel's part. So we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah, I think they've dropped the F-bomb about 4 or 5 times already. We're only like 10 seconds in.
Yeah, I know.
Can I say one thing though? I don't know if people or you two gentlemen are, as far as like younger kids hearing cuss words. To me, it's never really been a problem, because they're going to hear it either way. I mean, through social media, TV, and all that stuff. Do you guys, when you guys don't get like a warning saying there is going to be cussing and stuff like that, and your kids or whoever it may be hear the cussing, do you guys get pissed at something like that, or do you guys just let it go, like it's really not a big deal?
It's interesting. That's a good question, Tones. I see, this is the thing, I don't have kids, so it's hard for me to answer that. But I will say this, for example, right? Because we go to theme parks a lot and what have you. If I'm at a theme park and I'm waiting in line, I'm with the Italiano or something, and there are kids in front of us, I definitely don't cuss. I do try to yeah. I mean, if I cannot do it in front of the kids, I won't, you know? So that's my own personal thing, you know?
Yeah. But, like in a big area like that I understand, but like in a movie or like a show or, you know, something that's on screen and they hear the cussing, like do you guys get upset that there's kids that possibly could hear it? Like, does that bother you guys at all?
No, because I'm a firm believer of, like, it's up to the parents at the end of the day, like what your kids are exposed to. Like, for example, if you're okay with your child hearing cuss words, then that's the parents. If you don't want that, then it's, as a parent, your job to sort of parental control stuff so your kid doesn't. So for me, it's kind of up to the parents. Everyone's got a different moral compass when it comes to that. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. What do you think, Jay?
I also don't have kids, so I don't give a fuck. No, I'm kidding. No, like I don't have kids, so for me, like, it's not an issue. I don't think about that much. If I'm with my nephew, I might think about it a little bit more, but he's old enough now where I can just have a conversation with him about it and be like, oh yeah, like even if Uncle Jay says those words, like, you just shouldn't necessarily do that, because I know his mom and dad wouldn't like it. Yeah. But like but I know that I've talked to a lot of parents. Look, my parents growing up, like, they were super strict on cussing. Like, I was not allowed to cuss at all when I was a kid. So my parents would not have been cool if I turned on Marvel Entertainment YouTube and just started watching this trailer with all the cuss words in it. They would have been like, what is going on here? You know? Okay. My dad's still, if he never cusses, if he ever cusses, like, I can count the number of times that I've heard my dad cuss, like, literally on a few fingers. Like, he does not do it. So like, so I am sensitive to the fact that, and I've talked to a lot of parents recently who are super sensitive to these things. So it goes through my head, even though I'm not thinking about it, I'll go, oh man, those other people that I just talked to, they would really dislike this. So okay, I always think that the best thing to do is my thing is, everyone's going to have a difference of opinion. We live in a free country, and the best thing to do is what OG said. if you're in public and you're gonna swear, it's best to like leave that to you and your friends, and not let it be like, hey, there's a bunch of kids around here and this could be uncomfortable. I will say that I don't think it's funny like 90% of the time when kids cuss. So whenever I see something on like Instagram or TikTok, I'm like, just because the kid's 10 and he says a swear word doesn't mean he's funny. Like, sorry, like the kid has to be funny if it's actually gonna work. But my kind of take is similar to OG's, but for corporate entities, to me, I would just play if you're known to be an adult oriented thing, like Barstool Sports, let's just say, right? Like that's fine. Do whatever you want to because it's adult oriented. You shouldn't let the kids watch that anyways. But if you're Marvel and a lot of your content is for kids, I'd throw up a warning. I'd be like, red band trailer, like this is just a heads up, like this is not for kids. And that's how I would handle it personally.
Yeah, it's like the content like we create on YouTube and stuff, right? Like for me, it's like the content, like for example, when we do a video of like the Disneyland Forward council meeting.
Yeah.
No kid is gonna watch this. You know what I'm saying?
right.
I could drop as many F-bombs as I want. Like it's not for kids. It's just not, you know?
Yeah.
But if I'm doing a video that's like, you know, maybe a little bit more skewed that possibly could be for younger people might check it out, then I'll be a little bit more careful with it, you know? But it all depends on like what it is, you know? You guys take that into consideration, Tones, or you guys mostly talk about adult stuff too, though, right? I mean, it's not really.
Yeah, I mean, I'm clicking the not for children once I'm done editing the video. I'm clicking not for children. Like it's not that I want to swear in front of kids. That's not where I was leading towards. It's almost like it's a respect thing. Like if I'm out and doing something and I'm cussing in front of children, that means I have no respect for anyone, and that's not how I was raised. But if you're out talking with your buddies and you see kids around you, you keep it to a minimum when it comes to cussing. But for videos who like Jay brought up, like Disney stuff, you're right, there is kids that come to Disney or come to watch trailers when it comes to Disney products and stuff like that. So if you do hear these fucks and all the bad words, like there could be an issue there. I see that, and I never thought of it like that. But as far as like, if you know it's not meant, like if you get a warning that says 18 and then you go to watch it, like you should expect that, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I will say one other thing, and this is maybe just me. I do think that, so I agree with OG that for the most part, if you're a parent, you should be able to define for your kids what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. However, I will tell you this, if I go into an R-rated movie, if I go into Deadpool 3 and I see a bunch of people brought their 8 to 10-year-olds, I will judge you, dude. Because like, not because of the cussing or not, but like, I don't think that the kids that age, by the way, this is like scientifically proven, kids that age can't process things the way adults process them in their brain, right? Okay. So I do think that there's a level of inappropriateness that if look, you're free to do it, fine. I'm not saying you're not free to do it, but I'm also free to judge you about doing it. So like, so I would probably say like, man, I don't think you should do that. If someone asked me, if one of my friends asked me like, should I take my 10-year-old kid to see this movie? I'd be like, I probably wouldn't do it. You know what I mean? Like, you know your 10-year-old better than me. Maybe he's super mature. Maybe she's super mature. That's fine, whatever. But I do think that there's a reason why that the discretion has to be with the parents, and it should be, right? The government shouldn't decide these things. The parents should decide these things. I agree with OG on that, but it doesn't mean that you should do it. You know what I mean? Exactly. Like, so
yeah. Well, and the other thing too with Deadpool specifically is like the cussing is one thing, but it's the context and like even the stuff they're talking about that might not even contain cussing.
Yeah,
is so inappropriate. So it's like you're bringing your 11-year-old or something. That's way. I mean, and again, everyone's moral compass is different.
Yeah,
but that's like this is not the movie for.
If your 8-year-old kid sees Deadpool and goes to school the next day and makes a pegging joke, like, bro, that's pretty bad. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
To Tone's point, like it's all about the respect thing. Like if you take so I'll give an ulterior example. If you take your kid who's 10 years old to see Deadpool and you have a long conversation with them afterwards and say, this is what's acceptable, this is what's not acceptable, just so you know, and you got the privilege of seeing the movie with your parents, don't go do that with your friends or whatever. Hey, I respect that. That's an exception to the rule. Sure. So it's all based on like Tones's model of saying, and your model too, OG, of saying, what's the scenario? what's respectful in this scenario, and you're going to raise respectful kids. Like, just raise respectful kids, right?
Yep, absolutely. Now, for me, I didn't have really strict parents. It's kind of well, actually, I did with certain things. They were very, very strict. And I went to Catholic school my whole life, so that was also a strict situation.
Man. You can't get much.
You can't get more strict than that.
You know what I'm saying? But like, but as a kid, like early teens, I was real, and I still am really into hip hop and rap and stuff. So I was no stranger to cussing, at least with the music I was listening to.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I'm about to lose everything that I've ever cared about.
Not my fucking problem.
Is that what you said when your world went to shit?
Come again.
This Wolverine let down his entire world.
Want to talk about what's haunting you, or should we wait for a third act flashback?
Go fuck yourself.
Now, typically, I'm not a fan of the fourth wall thing. Typically, there are exceptions, you know, like the meta stuff. Like, I actually think Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and we did a show on this, Jay. I think Who Framed Roger Rabbit did a brilliant job at this kind of self-aware stuff. And typically, I'm not a fan of it, but with Deadpool, it's handled really, really well. It's so funny. It really is.
Can I say one thing?
Yeah.
She-Hulk. Have you guys seen She-Hulk?
Yes.
Oh yeah, regrettably.
Yeah. The very last episode. I mean, it reminded me of, that's what you mean by the fourth wall, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. It's that part where she jumps into the freaking film room. Oh
yeah.
Anyway, that's a movie, or that's a show that shouldn't be doing it. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Exactly.
Life is a mystery.
I don't know anything about saving worlds, but you do.
Trust me.
Can you pause it for a second there?
Yeah, I got you.
OG. You got this back in the background, just for those folks who don't know. Liefeld. So you see Liefeld's Just Feet. Liefeld was the creator of Deadpool, and it's a constant joke in the comic book world that Rob Liefeld would a lot of times get proportions wrong and stuff like that, and he hates drawing feet, and he tries to avoid drawing feet at all costs. And so the fact that it's Liefeld's Just Feet is pretty hilarious. Just want to throw that out there.
And I love that, Jay. I did not know that, and that's a deep cut that you added that in there.
That's a deep cut. Yep.
Oh, that's dope. I like that a lot.
You were an X-Man. You were the X-Man. I am soaking wet right now.
Wow.
Boys are so silly.
This is what I'm talking about. Big slow motion action sequence. Who knows if you live or die? Let's fucking go.
Let's fucking go.
Wow.
Want to do some cocaine?
Hey, cocaine is the one thing that Feige said is off limits.
What about Bolivian marching
They
powder?
know all the slang terms. They have a list.
Even snowboarding?
Even disco dust.
White girl interrupter?
Even force bump.
Do you want to build a snowman?
Yes. I can't.
I love that they dropped Feige's name in there. I think that was so fucking funny.
Yeah. That was fantastic. So everyone that was concerned, like when Disney bought Fox, right? Are they going to kind of like what they call like nerf this franchise? Are they going to make it PG-13 or something? Nope. Fears out the window.
Right, exactly.
Fears out the window. Excellent trailer. Go ahead, Tom.
Do you think because the Century Fox logo was in the ground and they were fighting by it? Do you guys think that was a shot at Century Fox, or do you think it was just a way of showing that they're no longer, relevant? I
think it was a way of kind of showing that, like, yeah, they're no longer relevant. Like, it's Disney's thing now. They're kind of a relic of the past, so to speak, and they're kind of visually telling that. What do you think, Jay? What do you think?
I agree. I don't think it's a shot necessarily, because I don't think that I don't think Ryan Reynolds has a reason to take a shot at 20th Century Fox. Like, I think, you know, they allowed him to make some fantastic movies that he wanted to make and let him do his thing. Like, I think it's more of like a inside joke of like, okay, this is no longer a thing, and so we'll make fun of it no longer being a thing. That would be my guess.
But by the way, do you guys remember when Wolverine was pretty much trying to punch Deadpool, but he kept missing?
Yeah,
that scene was recreated from, I believe it was Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire, when he was in his school, and the bully tried to punch him and he kept dodging him. That was the same sequence as the scene in Deadpool in the trailer.
Cool. That's interesting, Tones, because what Jay was saying with Life Fell Feet, right? Mm-hmm. And now that, because that's not a coincidence. There's no way that fight scene is perfectly choreographed the same.
Right.
There's a lot of deep cutty stuff in this movie so far.
Oh yeah. Yeah. The only difference was he didn't get scissored in the crotch by Wolverine and in the Spider-Man.
yeah.
But it's crazy little Easter eggs that were in this trailer.
And the dope thing about this trailer too is like I love the comedy, but also the fight scenes are sick too. Go ahead, Jay.
Oh no, you're right. You can keep going. I'll speak after. You're right.
Yeah, no, I love the comedy in it. Obviously, I thought it was hilarious. But then the fight scenes, you know, sometimes it's either one or the other. Sometimes, right, with this stuff, like it's a funny movie, but the fight scenes might not be so good. You get a lot of great fight scenes, but the comedy isn't so great. It doesn't really land. On this one, it seems like they're really hitting both. You know, I mean, I haven't really seen. I got to be honest. And I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts on this, but Marvel lately has been underwhelming, to say the least. And the fight scenes and stuff, like, haven't been great. You know, this one is just like every fight scene I'm seeing is so beautifully choreographed, but it feels organic, though. It doesn't feel like it's choreographed. It's not like the Star Wars prequels where it looks like a dance. Yeah. They're really well done. So I don't know. I think it looks pretty dope. I'm sorry, Jay. Go ahead, brother.
No, I was just going to say, I totally agree. I think this is a great trailer. One of the things I've said is that I'm not a Deadpool stan. You will find Deadpool stans out there that just love Deadpool. Yeah. That's not necessarily me. However, I think that this movie is coming at the perfect time. I mean, like, Marvel has had enough misses that nobody has been willing to admit besides Bob Iger. Like, give Bob Iger some credit. You have not heard Feige say, yeah, we're like not hitting the ball out of the park. I understand Feige doesn't want to throw his team under the bus, and I wouldn't in his position either. But I think that the Deadpool finally gives them the opportunity to make fun of the movies that we all know were not up to par with what they should have been.
Beautiful point.
In that Mad Max Fury Road situation, there's the big Ant-Man costume, which even has a skeleton in it, by the way, which would indicate that like that Ant-Man is maybe, you know, dead and they're using it as a building or whatever. But Quantumania was not good. Like, it wasn't good in any sense of the word, right? So like to be able to make fun of that a little bit, I really hope that there's a scene of that, even if it's post credits, that there's a scene of Deadpool twerking with She-Hulk. You know what I mean? Like, you've got to make fun of that. You've got to point out that like they maybe overstepped it a little bit. I don't think Feige should, because I think Feige, he gave creators who don't have a comic book background the ability to try some stuff. It didn't work. That doesn't mean that they was like they're bad creators or that they should be like expelled from making Marvel stuff necessarily or any of that kind of stuff. So, but it does mean that we should be able to make fun of it a little bit, because some of the Marvel audience is taking itself way too seriously. And when they've had misses, it's almost like we can't say that's a miss, because as soon as you say it's a miss, it's like, well, then you must be a misogynist. Like, no, I'm just a fan of good stuff, by the way. I love it when there's a fan of good female stuff, but if it's a miss, it's a miss. Come on, let's admit that it's a miss and just move on.
Can I say something real quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
Real quick. I know we did grow up in different stage day, but we grew up the same, because anything that you can look back on and make fun of, it is something that you have to laugh at. For one, it's a lesson that you've learned. Like, you have to learn from a lesson. That's something my parents preached to me, that if you don't, even though something bad happens, fucking learn from it. Don't do it again. Like, as simple as that. And if you could do that with these movies that that unfortunately we got to see, but it learned from it, like make fun of it, and it was a joke. Like it's funny.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like what I call the Eminem factor, right? Okay, I don't know if you gentlemen have seen 8 Mile.
Oh,
have you guys seen that?
Seen it. I haven't seen it. I've seen enough to know what it's about, but I haven't seen the actual film.
You're joking, right?
No, I wish I was
What?
joking. I've
You
never
would
seen
love
it. And I'm a rap fan too, so it's like,
wow,
doesn't make any sense. I'm an Eminem fan too.
You would love it. It's if you're a rap fan, you'll love it. But even just as a movie fan, I think you'll really get a kick out of it. It's a great movie. But what he does in that movie is he takes all the ammo out of his opponents by dissing himself.
Yes.
So he'll make fun of himself and say, yeah, I'm a white boy. I live with my mom. I live in a trailer. I'm broke. I'm this and that. So by the time he hands the mic over to the opponent, the guy's got nothing. Nothing to say. So it's like this, right? If like Deadpool. Oh, me too. It was so good. And so with this Deadpool thing, it is kind of perfect, like what you were saying, Jay, because they can kind of make fun of all the failures of the last couple of years. And it takes the sting out of that.
Absolutely.
Because they're poking fun at themselves. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, OG, real quick, can you go back to the trailer for me? And can you, before they started talking about the the white powder, as they would call it.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I got you.
Pause. Can you keep going? Keep going.
Right there? Like
no, keep going. Yeah, right there. Right there. Perfect.
Right there?
Yeah, you don't even have to play it. Just leave it right there. Okay. You guys know what this is, correct?
I think I know what it is. Yeah.
Okay.
Doctor Strange.
Yes. Yeah. So this potentially could be the start, which is crazy if it is, because putting it in a trailer is really crazy to me, because if it leads into the MCU that we know, the timeline that we're at, them jumping into this portal, like, not only is it crazy that they put it in a trailer, but it's crazy because we're going to be able to see them with the Avengers or whatever characters we have left at this point, but we're going to be able to see them on that timeline, which could be nuts, be nuts. And I think X-Men and the Fantastic Four and all that stuff, I think they're all eventually might be doing the same thing they're doing.
Tones, I could not agree with you more. And I was going to have him go back to this part of the trailer as well, because notice how whenever you see a portal, they show you where they're going. And they have altered this trailer to cover up the location. And I'm betting, if I were to place a bet, I would say they are going to the Thanos portal scene. And they're going to bring that back up.
Oh my God, it's so funny you said that. I seen a video or a picture of them, and it looked like they were, the portals when everyone came back.
Yep.
At that Thanos
on your
fight.
Left. Yep.
Yes. And all those portals were opening, and it some guy had it in the background of them jumping through that portal.
Oh, really? Yeah. Exactly. I would bet you because the question you have to ask is, why would they hide that from us?
Exactly.
And so if this is going to be an extended joke sequence of how Deadpool and Wolverine entered the MCU that we know, that we've seen, then they can for sure do that. Even if it's just they show up and this is the end of the movie and they just go, well, shit, what do we do now? You know what I mean? Like, even if it's just that, it's epic. Like, it's awesome. Like, what an awesome way of doing that. So that's my personal bet, is that they're jumping into the portal scene in Endgame, but we'll have to see.
And it also looks like in the background that there is some ending to this world that they're in particular. So you never know. You never know,
because this could be connected to. Okay, so what do we know from Endgame? We know that that Doctor Strange said out of the 13.4 million, I think it is, like, possible outcomes, this is the only one that works, right? Yeah. And so this is a portal that he's opening up potentially for them to do something, even if it's something really funny and stupid, when they get to that scene, that they actually contributed to the defeat of Thanos somehow. The other thing about this scene that I think is really interesting, if I'm not mistaken, we've seen this Smoke character before. I can't remember if this was seen in a Doctor Strange, in the second Doctor Strange film, or if it was in, it could have been in the Loki series.
I was just about to say it might have been in the Loki series because it looks familiar as well.
Yeah, so I think that that's kind of part of this whole thing. And look, it's a brilliant concept if they're going to go through and make up like all these funny interactions about the MCU. That's a brilliant concept for an MCU film. So
let me ask you guys a question. Now, this is a long shot. I'm just having fun with this. I'm just spitballing. But you know, with Deadpool, you never know, and that's why I want to kind of see what you guys think about it. Is there a chance? You know, I'm sure legally they'd have to work it out, right? Is there a chance they go through one of these portals and they end up like in like, you know, a Justice League scene or something? And they're like, oh shit, we got to go back in the portal. What the fuck is this?
We can only wish. I mean, that would be cool. I've always said, you know, they've done video games like Marvel versus Capcom. Like that was a huge game. Like it would be awesome to see like Superman and what's it called? Like Aquaman, like them fight the Avengers. Like that would be so dope, dude. Yeah. Like why not do it for the fans? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but, even just for like a second, like they jump in, they see them, like what is this? And they jump back out. Or whatever.
Yeah, that'd be hilarious.
Like, I don't know, man, because they're so. You know, this movie seems pretty creative with the deep cuts that you guys are mentioning and stuff, and just the creative ways they're kind of implementing stuff. I don't know. I wouldn't be like too shocked if something like that happened.
I hope they do that. Here's why I don't think it'll happen. If James Gunn was 5 years in and he'd made his own Superman already, and he'd made his own Batman already, and he'd made his own other category, I think he would greenlight it. I think James Gunn would be like, absolutely hilarious, do it.
Yeah.
The thing that makes me think it's not going to happen is that James Gunn doesn't have any wins under his belt with DC. True. And the DC films are kind of seen as like a partial failure at this point. So I can't see Warner Brothers greenlighting it. And I don't see James Gunn being like, yeah, I'll greenlight that, even though, you know, like those are my buddies. So I guess I'll greenlight it because I have connections to MCU. I just don't think he's in a place where he could do that. But 5 years down the road, I think it's on the table.
Yeah. That'd be so good. That'd be so good.
One more thing before we get off this trailer. The only thing that I'll kind of speculate if that portal is not in the actual movie, because the TVA portal that they use is, of course, it's square. It looks like an actual door, but it kind of looks similar in, maybe not in shape, but it looks similar in the way they would jump through it. So they could be tricking us and giving us, it looks like a Doctor Strange portal, but it also could be a TVA portal, which you see Deadpool in for some of the trailers for the first one and the second one. So it could be them trying to throw us off in a way of the Doctor Strange portal, but I hope it is. I hope it's a Doctor Strange portal and not an actual TVA portal.
Yeah, I have one other thing to say about the trailer too, which is we don't know yet which Wolverine this is. Because it could be multiple different Wolverines. However, I think that they've said something about this, and I would have to go look it up to see exactly what was said. But I believe this is the same Wolverine from Logan, just before that the Logan before actually happens. Yeah, and I say that because his world has been destroyed, so to speak. Right? We know that the world that Logan was living in with Charles Xavier was pretty shitty. I mean, like if you could say it had been destroyed, and he's in a mindset that Logan would kind of be in at the beginning of the Logan film, right? So it wouldn't surprise me at all if that's the timeline that we're dealing with in terms of Wolverine's character, is that they're maybe even saying now that Logan was even impacted by, let's say, the blip even, right? And that's a part of why everything's all messed up in that world. So I think that that's actually a pretty solid way of introducing a Hugh Jackman Wolverine into the MCU. Right. So I think that's cool. So I think I'm very positive about this film. Even not being a Deadpool stan, I'm here for it.
Now, real quick before we pivot to the fandom and stuff. Okay, I'll start with you, Tones. I'll go to you, Jay. Tones, do you think this will be $1 billion movie globally?
Fuck. Okay, I'll say this. I want to say yes. I do, because to me, you can't fuck up Deadpool and Wolverine. For one, there's too much hype. There's too much hope behind this movie. The only thing I will say is if they set something before the movie that that this won't be on Disney Plus for like a year or something outrageous, then I would say yes, this movie will be $1 billion movie. But the way this whole streaming stuff has been going, it's almost impossible to reach $1 billion, and it sucks. And Disney's known for, I mean, I shouldn't say just Disney alone, but a lot of these streaming platforms, they're known for putting a movie out for like 2 months and then releasing it on their platform, on their streaming platform. So as much as I would love for it to hit $1 billion, which the movie looks great and I hope it does, and I would say yes, but the fact that these streaming platforms are putting these movies out like a month or two after, or maybe not a month, but like 2 or 3 months after the movie was done, I doubt it. I really doubt it, and it sucks for me to say that.
Yeah, well, the thing too is I'm kind of on the same page. I think the streaming thing, it was definitely going to be an impact, and the R rating that limits who can go, you know. But what do you think, Jay?
Yeah, we had this discussion with George. Remember, you and I and George were talking about this, and George's team billion, and Tones' team billion. But I'm with OG. I don't see this hitting $1 billion, and the primary reason for that is, and by the way, we should not judge this film on its success being $1 billion. This film's success should be on whether or not it breaks 500 million, if it gets to 700 million. We haven't seen a Deadpool film hit that yet. I don't think. I think the second one, I want to say, hit in the 5 to 6 range. The first one it might have only been 365 if I'm remembering right. I don't remember. I'd have to look it up. But my point is this film doesn't need to hit $1 billion, because if it hits 600,000 in the 600 million, and the last one was 300 million, it doubled what the last one did. That's insane. Now,
real quick, Jay, 785.8 million they in the box office.
This is why it's hard. This is why it's difficult. Because now you add Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, and now you're flirting with $1 billion. You're definitely flirting with $1 billion, but I don't want to judge it on that, because my personal feeling is that the MCU needs to re-engage its fan base. Like I hear very few people being excited about the MCU anymore, right? And so for me, this movie is not judged on whether or not it hits $1 billion. It's whether or not it engages the core fan base and gets the core fan base back to being hyped about the MCU. And you don't hit $1 billion with the core fan base. You hit $1 billion when the general market gets behind it, but they don't need the general market as much as they need the core fan base right now. So that's my personal feeling about it.
Well said.
I agree with you.
Well said. Okay, let's talk about fandom. And we touched upon this on Tones on your channel, like maybe like a couple months ago, I think. Twitter and the fandom in general is crazy toxic, right? And there's no secret. I mean, everyone talks about it, and it's been like this for a little while now. I'll start with you, Jay. What do you think? Is it actually more toxic than it was maybe 15 years ago? Or is it more or less we just see more toxicity because social media, you know? So have people actually changed and gotten shittier? Or are we just now seeing the shitty people when before we didn't see them because social media exists? What's your take on that?
I think that it's a little bit of both, but let me explain what I mean when I say a little bit of both. Because I was literally just talking about this with my wife yesterday, not related to the fandoms, but what we were talking about was we were talking about you know, I'll give you a non-fandom example. Let's just say that I went to eat lunch with one of my cousins, and they're like, "Hey, just so you know, like I'm vegan, so I'm going to eat vegan," right? Back in the day, without social media, what would have happened in that interaction is I would have said like, "Oh, when did you become a vegan?" They said, "Oh, I became a vegan at these times." I said, "Why did you become a vegan?" "Oh, I became a vegan because I really hate like animal torture, and I really like love animals. And I just hate seeing them injured, so I felt like I can't eat meat anymore." I go, "Oh, that's crazy." And I go, that's wild. Is it cool if I eat meat? Because I still eat meat. And they go, yeah, I'm not super comfortable with it, but like you're free to do what you're free to do. Like go for it, right? That is a normal interaction. That's a normal human interaction, right? In America, we are all free to do whatever, as long as it's not impacting somebody else, we're free to do whatever we're free to do. And I think what's happened is nowadays, if I were to go to lunch with my cousin and they were to say that they were vegan, they're way more defensive about it. Why? Because they've heard 500 people already tell them on social media that they're a fucking idiot for being a vegan, right? And so now if I ask them like, oh, you're a vegan, like if I have a good relationship with them, they might give me the benefit of the doubt and have that conversation. Or they might be like, you're killing animals, bro, and you should be a vegan too. You know what I mean? Like, and where does that come from? That doesn't come from a sense of like, they need to instruct me on how to live my life, unless they've become so defensive that's just the first thing that they go to, and they just don't know how to make a decision in any other way. So what am I saying? I'm saying that I think that social media has amplified two things. One, extremism, in all forms of extremism. I now say what my opinion is, and my opinion, if it's extremist, I have way more visibility now than I would have had before, right? Actually, I'll tell you, I'll say there's a really, really good Sebastian Maniscalco joke about this.
I love that.
Yeah, he's the best. I'll tell the joke in a minute, and shout out to Sebastian Maniscalco. Go buy tickets to see him. But I think that nowadays what you find is you find people with extremist views get promoted on socials because of the way the algorithms work. If I say something crazy, you're more likely to interact with it than if I say something very reasonable, right? The chances that we get comments on something that I said that's crazy in this very video is way higher than if I say something super reasonable, right? Like, and so what happens is we start having these discussions, and we're not talking to each other. We're talking over and around each other.
Well, we're trying to talk to the audience more or less.
Exactly. And it's not like sit down with OG. I'm sure he'll be very reasonable. Like I was listening to a podcast where Joe Rogan was talking to Tucker Carlson. And these guys have both gotten a lot of shit over the years. But if you listen to this, I can come up with snippets of this conversation that make them sound crazy. But if you listen to the entire conversation, you go, yeah, okay. They didn't say everything I agree with, but they don't seem as unreasonable as they've been made out to be by other people, right? And that's true of anybody who's in a long form conversation. There's going to be snippets that you say weird shit, and then there's going to be long, like, but if you listen to the whole thing, you get a chance to know the person, and you go, okay, I kind of see where they're coming from. So I think what's happened is that we have done a poor job of learning how to interact with one another. We have then set up boundaries around ourselves, which this is one of the reasons why I'm not on Twitter, because I don't feel like I feel like I can have a healthy conversation with probably 95% or more of the world at large. But you can't Twitter's not set up for you to have a healthy conversation, because Twitter's set up for you to have 288 characters max. That is that's usually going to be an abbreviated version of what you believe.
Unless you pay $10.99 a month,
right? And then you got to read a blog. And then you got to read a blog post. Who's going to read the blog post? But you can't convey your ideas in that short of a period of time without all of a sudden them coming off as being more extreme. And what I've seen people do is they'll take two extreme viewpoints and they'll be like, "Well, I guess if I have to like one of these, I'm going to like this one, even if it's not exactly what I believe. It's more in alignment with what I believe, so I'll choose a team." Right? I just think team building like that is so crazy. So the Sebastian Maniscalco joke, I think, exemplifies what I'm trying to say, and it's a really funny joke, and I'm gonna butcher it. So please go watch Sebastian Maniscalco deliver it. But he goes, before the internet, if you liked to get in your basement and dress up like a baby, and you're a grown man, you didn't know that there were other people dressing up like babies. But now you can get on the internet and you can go around and search, and there's conventions of thousands of people who like to dress as babies. And he goes, in 1955, if you came out of your front door dressed as a baby, your neighbor would be like, "What's this shit? Call the FBI."
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what it used to be, right? It used to be like we didn't know that there was these extremism positions that people were taking. And you're free, by the way. You're free to dress like a baby. go for it. If you want to dress like a baby, it's America. The freedom means something. But society at large didn't have to interact with you and give their opinion on you. And now we're saying, not only do I dress like a baby, I need to know what you think about me dressing as a baby, and you better be supportive. And it's like, dude, it's a free country for anyone else to think that you shouldn't dress like a baby. So it's like the whole thing is we just need to be comfortable that people have other opinions that we have, and we need to let them have those opinions and still be their friends. Who cares?
Yep.
Right. No, exactly. And I'm with you, Jay. I've actually considered, I've been thinking long and hard about this, like seriously considering deactivating my Twitter.
Yeah.
Because, and the only thing really holding me back is because I coordinate shows through the DMs, you know, with you guys. And it's kind of like, it's a useful tool to kind of, because everyone's on Twitter, you know what I'm saying? It's better than emailing everybody, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But if I could just delete it, I would, because I'm with you on that. I mean, it is a very toxic place, and it's gotten even worse now because now people get paid on Twitter for engagement.
Yes.
So now not only is it already a toxic situation, but now you're incentivized to do that toxic tweet because it's gonna foster a lot more engagement than what you were saying, Jay, with a reasonable tweet. You know, the reasonable stuff usually doesn't go viral. It's the hot takes, the insults, the this and that. It's gotten so bad, you know, pussy in bio.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I would completely deactivate if it wasn't for coordinating shows. And also too, once you delete your account, they let people use your handle again. And since that is connected to my channel, I don't want some weirdo with my name now out there on Twitter, you know. But like but yeah, fandom has gotten pretty bad. Yeah, it's and this is the thing too. Like what you were saying too, Jay, with the team building. It's like if this person's positive at all about, say, Disney, pixie duster immediately. Yeah. You know, you don't have to have any context or history about that person. Hey, you liked the latest Disney. You like Little Mermaid, right? Pixie duster, obviously, right?
Yeah.
But it's the same on the other side too. I mean, it's the same if someone says, "Hey, you know what? Little Mermaid didn't work for me. I didn't like the casting." You know, grifter, right winger grifter. You know, and it's like this immediate like jump to like just like demonizing someone who doesn't agree with you. And there's context, and there's people on Twitter I most of the time do not agree with, but every now and then it's like, hey, you know what? That person actually has a point. People are not one-dimensional villains. No. You know, the people have nuance and gray area, and you're going to agree with that person that sometimes you don't usually agree with. You might disagree with the person that you do agree with sometimes. So very interesting stuff, but it's gotten bad. But I think that it's a mixture of like, I think because we're more involved now, we're seeing more people than we ever have before through social media. But also, you're right, Jay. I think there is a sense of like tensions are a little high. You know?
Yeah, let me give one more example before you get to Tones. I actually really want to hear what Tones has to say about this too.
Yeah.
But we used to have a show on the Story Geeks podcast called Nerd Fights. And what we would do is we would say to all of our hosts, any guests that we were going to have on, we would say, hey, we're going to have in fact, we did this one, best Disney live action, right? And then you're going to pick one, I'm going to pick one, and you're going to pick another one. And sometimes we would even be arguing for one that we didn't even think was the best. It's just that somebody else needed to say something else, right? And so I remember this very distinctly. We were having this conversation with a buddy of mine named Brian, who's a really nice guy. And he was arguing, I can't remember what live action thing he was arguing for, but he was arguing against the Cinderella live action, right? And so he's like sitting there and like we go, and we had a judge in the room too, so it was fun because the judge got to decide who had the best argument.
And that's real quick, Jay. That's a tough one to argue against. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. And so he's arguing against Cinderella, and this is what he says. He goes, you know, I just feel like he's a really nice guy. I just feel like there's parts which Cinderella's I'm just saying it's a little bit slow in parts, and I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying like it's a little bit slow. Like some of the scenes are drawn out and stuff like that. And he stopped saying that, and I go, I'm gonna say what Brian means to say. That shit's boring, right? Like, and this is a key understanding of like what gets interaction on Twitter, right? Brian's opinion was friendly. Brian's opinion was articulated. It was non-offensive. And then I just came in and said, like, you know what? Fuck it. This is boring, right? Now, why did I do that? I did that for comedic value, obviously, right? But when we stopped that podcast, I went, you guys realize that if you ever want anything to be punchier, just remove the nuance from your language, right? If I have a long drawn out explanation of something, I can always then say, okay, let me just take that like 3-paragraph thing and distill it down into a sentence and take all of the nuance out of it. I don't need to think about anyone's other opinions. I don't need to think about this in more detail to say that what word was I actually trying to look for. I can just be offensive right off the bat in a single sentence that takes all the nuance out of it. So that's what Twitter is. Twitter is taking the nuance out of life and just displaying the root, unthought out, oftentimes opinions of people who want engagement. So, you know, that's good for a show where you're trying to be funny. It's not good for trying to build friendships. So if you're trying to build friendships on Twitter, you oftentimes find that it's just tribe building. And it's just like, oh yeah, they agree with me, so they're my friends. And I don't want to live my life that way. So I'm off Twitter. But if you want to have a nerd fight, I will take out some nuance for comedic value. So sorry, Tones. I said way too many things.
No. So my thing, I will take your guys' Twitter and raise you Twitch and Kick. Twitch and Kick are streaming platforms for those who don't know, live streaming platforms. I'm not too sure if you guys are fans of streamers or watch streamers
not really
in general. These two platforms, I don't want to say Twitch as much, but it's gotten bad over the years, but Kick is one that's known for it. But these people that you guys see these Twitter fingers going, these people do it in live as they're walking around IRL, and like there's these people who slap people walking by. They'll antagonize people with these people who are streaming. They'll have bodyguards antagonize people, call them names and all this stuff, and they can't do nothing because they have these huge bodyguards protecting them. And they assault people. Like you see, there was a video I saw, this dude who was live streaming in Japan. A gentleman spit on him and just walking by and spit on him. And the guy saw that he was live streaming, so he just said, "Fuck it, I'm just gonna spit on you." So these high level, or I don't want to say high level, but these engagements that people would rather see or do to get more attention is in a negative way is what's in nowadays, and it's mind-boggling to me. And like, you can't have a normal conversation with someone. Like, for instance, I'm not a political person, but if I were to have a political conversation with a Biden goer and a Trump goer, like, there's no way they're meeting halfway in anything. Right. They're too headstrong on their beliefs, and nothing's wrong with that, but it's almost like when you talk politics, it's in a negative manner. And that whole thing, I'm not sure how it was back in, you know, the old days, but like now it's literally toxic to talk about politics. That's why most people don't talk about it on platforms. But for fandom in general, I will give you an example. I currently watched Rebel Moon. I am a huge fan of Rebel Moon. I'm not a huge stan for Zack Snyder. I've only watched a couple of his films. Some were great, some were not really my style, which is fine, right? But you get these people who come into, I made a video saying I loved Rebel Moon. I thought it was a great action movie. It had a great dialogue. It had great character developments, character stories, and I thought it was great. But yet I had more comments in my on my video. I had over 100, I think it was like 120 comments. Wow. than I had likes, which is really rare. Like, you get more likes than you do comments. I had more comments saying how bad Zack Snyder is. I got a delusional director, a terrible story writer. It's like you're being negative for no reason. And I could see if Jay, you came in my comments, was like, hey, I don't like the way this character went. I think it would have been a better way if they went this way. This storyline is just not my style. Like, I can respect someone who comes to me and says that. Like, okay, you know, I can get where we got, you know, we didn't see eye to eye, but yet it's people saying this movie was shit. This was the worst movie I've ever seen. I've Zack Snyder is just a terrible director. He should not be writing any stories. But it's like, but why though? And I get no, when I ask I'll just put, but why? I won't get any comments after that. They won't explain to me because they already hate this person. But it's like, what do you benefit from getting this toxic and this negative affection towards this guy when he just writes movies? Like, don't watch the movie.
Because you know what it is. You know what it is, Tones. You'll never find a hater doing better than you. So these people sit behind their keyboard, you know, in their mom's basement or whatever, right? And they're talking shit about this millionaire, right? Zack Snyder, Bob Iger, these people don't have, you know, Tom Cruise don't have time to go on the internet and talk shit about anybody. They're too busy making money and being successful. You know what I'm saying? Yep. And that's what a lot of that is. It's just people they hate up, you know? Yep. And it's wild. It's funny too with the comments and stuff, because there's ways to say stuff, right? Like you can get a comment where it's like, man, okay, you three guys are shills. Okay, that's like just an attack on a person, right? That's just being like just kind of shitty. Or you can say, hey, you know what, you guys, this panel could have used maybe another opinion, another perspective, right? There's a way to do it constructively, and there's a way that's just, you know what, you're just being a jerk. And too many people just go the jerk route, you know?
And I think to answer your broader question is if it's toxic, yes, it's more now toxic because you don't have to be hired by a company to get paid for your opinion now. You can do it. You can put it on any social media you want, and if you have enough engagement, you will get paid for your opinion. And that was something that, of course, didn't happen back in the day, and it happens now. So it's way worse now because people, even if I could say I loved fucking Star Wars. I thought it was the best movie in the world on film. But if I text Jay and I'd be like, dude, I didn't mean any of that. I just did it for the video. Yeah. Like that's what happens. Like that sequence happens all the time. I could go the opposite way. I hated this fucking movie. I thought it was terrible. Hey, OG, this movie was good. I was just lying. Like it sucks that it happens that way, but you know, we're in a different world, man. Different world.
I think that's so true. And the example that I've given to people before about how this plays out, and I know we've talked about multiple examples, but like back in the day when I was a kid, like I'm old enough, OG's around my age, like we know. It used to be like you heard Siskel and Ebert's opinion, right? Like you didn't hear like 1,000 opinions on whether or not Rebel Moon was any good. You heard a few opinions. You called your friends and were like, did you see Rebel Moon? I saw Rebel Moon. Like I liked it. I didn't like it. And so usually you could always push back and be like Tones, Tones and I were calling each other. I haven't seen the second one, by the way. I need to watch it so I can talk to Tones about it. But if Tones would be like, hey, dude, I love the action in this movie. And I could be like, yeah, the action was cool, but I really didn't like that this character did this thing. And then Tones would be like, yeah, that kind of sucked, but the action, dude, it was cool. And like, it's like that's how we used to have conversations when we were kids. You know what I mean? Like the most you would hear about other people's opinions were probably at school, but that's it. Like the whatever 100 opinions you might hear, you probably only heard a dozen opinions about something. And so you got to come to terms with what you felt about it. And I think now, again, like we've talked about, now I have to hear 1,000 opinions, especially if I put my opinion out there. Now I've got to hear 1,000 opinions coming back at me. And on top of that, all of those people already got together in their little groups and already removed all the nuance. So it's not about like, oh, you know what I don't like about Zack Snyder? I can criticize, I can critique Zack Snyder. I can critique any director out there. I can give a critique about and say like, this is what they do well. This is what they don't do as well. I have my own critiques about Zack Snyder. The point I'm trying to make, though, is that all of these people who have, to your point, OG, no idea how to even make a fucking movie, have their little opinions about how other people do it. They get together, they talk about it all. They go, they make a decision about whether or not Zack Snyder is a hero or a villain. Then they go, he's a villain. Therefore, everything he does is terrible. Therefore, this movie is terrible. We're all on the same page. I'm just going to go say it's terrible. Guess what? You didn't study anything. You probably haven't even seen all of Zack Snyder's movies. You really don't know Zack Snyder. You don't even know how he makes movies. You go out and listen to all the people who have worked for Zack Snyder because they praise the dude like crazy. They say he's great to work with. He's amazing. Go watch all the longer versions of his movies. They're all 10 times better than the shorter versions of his movies. Like, go do something to showcase that you should have an opinion on this topic. Because yeah, anybody can just watch something and react to it, right? Like we just reacted to the trailer. Cool, fun. That's great. You can do that. But if you want to come to me and have a valuable discussion, this is one of the main reasons I left Twitter. If you want to have a valuable discussion, I'm here for a valuable discussion any day of the week. I love talking to people. Love talking to Tones. Love talking to OG. Love talking to people on this channel who do not agree with me at all. On my channel, I used to talk to people all the time that we did not agree whatsoever on movies. Totally fine. But as soon as you come up with an unnuanced opinion without any expertise, without any study behind it, get out of here. I don't care what you think.
Exactly. And the biggest thing, real quick, the biggest thing about the whole Zack Snyder thing is the slow-mo. People didn't like the slow-mo, which I get it, understandable. It's to each his own. But if you come to me and say that movie was trash because of the slow-mo, it's like you obviously didn't. You were too busy fucking checking your Instagram DMs and not watching the movie, because the slow-mo might have not been something you liked, but everything else was amazing. The story, the character, and all that stuff. Like you can't take little things as much like a slow-mo. Come on. Like you're nitpicking at this point, and you're obviously hating Zack Snyder because that's his thing. He's known for slow-mo. People have to be directors. I mean, I could be talking out of my ass, but Jay, you can answer this. But don't directors want to be known for something? Like they want to stick out when it comes to certain, like for movies.
Sure.
Like they want their what's it called, like
a style.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like Zack Snyder uses slow-mo. Like it doesn't take away from the movie. You might not like it, but it doesn't take away from the general consensus of the movie, in my opinion. Not
only that, but we've seen Zack Snyder use slow-mo to create gorgeous imagery on screen. When Leonidas kicks the guy into the open pit and he says, "This is Sparta," like you can't tell me that that's not a well-filmed scene. It's all slow-mo. One of the most beautiful sequences in film history, in my opinion, is the sequence. Well, first of all, I'll give you two more beautiful sequences of Zack Snyder's. One of them I was thinking of was from Watchmen, where he does the whole background of where the Watchmen have come from and the Minutemen, and then the slow-mo sequence, all of these events happening. One of the most gorgeous intros of all time, giving the audience a lot of information about that in a short period of time about how we got to where we are in the present day. Phenomenal opening sequence. Man of Steel. The Man of Steel trailer is probably my favorite trailer in the history of trailers. You want to see all the minor little shots he gives. He gives the butterfly like with its wings. He gives us the kid running around in the cape. He gives us the grasses moving in the breeze. I mean, talk about humanizing a character who's seen oftentimes as an alien, who's alienated from the people around him. That's pro level stuff. You can't tell me that's not pro level stuff. Now, is there problems with Man of Steel? Sure. Are there problems with Watchmen? Sure. There, of course, but you can't come in and then criticize somebody for taking stylistic choices. All of those things that I mentioned were all in slow-mo, and they were all 10 out of 10 moments. So get out of here. You don't know what you're talking about. You have to come to the table with a study of understanding something, knowing what you're talking about, and then expressing it. If you just have an opinion, everybody has one, dude. Everybody has an opinion. Congrats, you're not a genius.
Opinions are like assholes. Everyone's got one.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right.
Everyone's got one. Another thing I think is kind of wrong with the fandom too is kind of like this, like people like it's, and like what you were saying, Jay, like the people that. It's okay to have an opinion if you're not a filmmaker, this, that, and the other. But it's like some people take their layman opinion way too seriously, right?
Yes.
Like way too seriously, and it's like it's just like this like vehement thing. It's like perfect example of a person who does it right. I would say is our friend Drunk 3PO. He's got his opinions, but he's always got that kind of like he doesn't take himself too seriously, right? And he's got that kind of laid back, funny vibe to him. So. I don't agree with Drunk on a lot of stuff, man. I mean, like probably next to nothing, right? I mean, with Star Wars and things like that. Maybe a little more with theme parks. We probably see eye to eye. But he's a cool dude. He's a friend. I love that guy. And it's like I think the secret to Drunk's success is that he doesn't get too like when he goes on Twitter and people disagree with him, he's not getting so like worked up and he's just kind of like joking and having fun. Another example would be Junkman. Junkman's great.
Yeah.
He's hilarious, and he doesn't take his stuff. So I think that's a big part of this whole equation too. Is like these people, they, you know, it's like for me, for example, like I'm not gonna like, my opinion is my opinion, you know, and I'm not gonna take it like to this level where it's like I'm right, you're wrong, and this whole thing. It's like, come on, you guys, what's it? What is this shit? It's like, it's crazy, you know.
And especially if you're like having a conversation with someone, like if you're gonna tell me something you don't like, please tell me why, because it's gonna be my next question. Like you can't say you dislike something and just be like, I dislike something, or I dislike this. Yeah. Okay, but why? Yeah, like give me have a conversation with me, converse with me, and let's talk about it. Because it, like, for one, it's fun. Like Jay likes to talk to people. Like I love I did customer service for most of my life. Like I love talking to different people. Have a conversation with me about this if you felt the need to put this in my comments. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And
I had a funny experience the other day. My brother texted me. He's like, dude, I was watching Oppenheimer and I turned it off. And he goes, I didn't even like it. And I go, bro, that was my favorite movie of 2023. And we just laughed about it. We just laughed about it because again, you said it perfectly, OG. You're allowed to have opinions. You're allowed to express your opinions. Drunk 3PO is a great example because that dude is so fun, right?
Yeah.
Some of his crew, not always so fun. By the way. And also, and I would say like those guys have built teams around them who kind of agree with their opinions. The reason why Drunk 3PO is so good about that stuff, or Jay, because I know he likes being called Jay these days, is he's not out there trying to be toxic. He's not a toxic human being, right? He that is not his goal. It's never his goal. I've really enjoyed my conversations with him, even though I don't agree with him on all the things, right? But that is a proper way of expressing your opinion. Don't jump in Tones's DMs or his comments and be like, dude, you're an idiot because you liked something, right? Like that's not helpful to society. You can think that. You can think, I watched it, I thought it was garbage. That's totally fine. But the problem is when you start to become toxic about it and assume, I don't know if I can follow Tones anymore because he thinks this was good. Are you kidding me? Like, do you know how many serious things there are out there that I still would not unfollow someone over? Right. The only time I start to unfollow people, and the only reason I'm off Twitter is because I don't feel like those interactions can be healthy interactions. In real life, they could be, right? Yeah. And most people aren't willing to take the time to make them healthy or unhealthy. I've always appreciated, shout out to Bryant and Dylan. I don't agree with Bryant on all the stuff. I love conversations with Bryant. I will have a conversation with Bryant about whatever he wants to talk about. Dude, I'm down because he's awesome. But on Twitter, he and I would have long conversations back and forth. That was healthy. That is not the norm. So yeah, it's a bummer topic because I wish more people were open to like better discussions, but hey.
I completely agree. And you're right, Tones. Like, I mean, Jay, when it comes to like, when it comes to face to face, right? If okay, for example, we got the pixie dusters, you got the grifters, right? That's pretty much the two, you know, kind of negative connotations we have right now in the fandom, right? Yep. If you were to take these pixie dusters and these grifters and put them in a room together, have a few beers, and just talk. Yeah. Most of the time, 99.999% of the time, people would be cool, and it would be so much more, like you were saying, healthier than the engagements on Twitter. But the engagements on Twitter are just, they get, like you said, there's no nuance. A lot of times there's no context. And it comes off, you know, it's crazy, man. And it's just, yeah.
I mean, for the person in the room who really was truly being toxic, everybody would be like, that person's just a dickhead. We should just have them leave. And we'll all just still hang out together.
We don't hang out with this guy. That's
exactly.
Pretty much, yeah.
Exactly. So interesting conversation. Now, Tones, before we head out, for I understand you got a video that you want
to I think you guys will get a kick out of this video. It's a Disney video, and I had to save this for this. I almost forgot about it, but I had to save this for you guys because I really wanted you guys to watch this.
All right, let's rock and roll.
Pretty funny.
Disney adults are some weird people, man. I'm talking about. These people are paying hundreds of dollars to go to these theme parks. I mean, look at the ticket prices. I'd ignore these people go to these theme parks and dress up to go to the theme parks like characters and stuff. See, I googled people dressed as Disney characters, and it showed me people dressed as Disney characters at a sporting event. Okay, moving on from that, but seriously, these people will wait hours for like a parade that's 10 minutes long. These people will go to a theme park and spend $10 on a Bud Light that you can get at a gas station for a couple bucks. A Bud Light. Listen, everybody knows I'm a huge sports fan. Like, my entire mood tonight will depend on if the Sixers win the game. And I also like going to theme parks. Like what you like, man, and forget what anybody else has to say about it. If they're bothered by what you enjoy, then they got their own problems. We're all kind of weird. Just embrace it. Disney adults are some weird.
Yeah, man. That's a great video. He does it in a real comedic way. And see, that's what I'm saying too, right? That's a great example, Tones. The guy he's kind of poking fun and having fun.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but he makes a great point, right? Now, if he were to do that same video, that same subject matter, like if he didn't do the whole like kind of like jokey, lighthearted way, and he would get a shitload of hate comments.
Oh yeah.
Right. But because he kind of did it in that fun, kind of like, ha, 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 we're all laughing together thing, it was all good. And it was so true too. Like people always talk about, oh man, I hear all the time, like, oh man, Disney's so expensive. I'm like, it is expensive, but like, dude, you go to Vegas, you're paying like $15 for a beer too. You know, you go to these games, you're paying $15 for a beer. I went to Universal. I'm going again this weekend with the Italiano and Wizard and Ebba, actually. we're doing the Universal thing. But I went to Universal about a month ago, and we were at the Wizarding World thing, and the beer that I got, it was like a draft beer. Okay. It wasn't even like a specialty mug or anything. It was $20.
Whoa.
Yeah. And the horrible thing, and I paid it. I'm like, fuck it. I feel like a beer. I'm gonna just do it. But I'm bad with money, you know. But the worst thing about it, I bought the beer and it landed in my lap. After 2 sips, it landed in my lap. Oh my God.
So you got 50 cents worth of sips and then
pretty much.
$20 for a beer. I want Harry Potter to bring it to me.
Better be some magical ass beer, you know.
Well, and I love that video, Tones, because it does what I think Drunk 3PO is really good at.
Right.
It's saying like, look, like I've never heard Drunk 3PO have an opinion that he's then trying to like push somebody else out of the fandom. Right. Mm-hmm. He's instead having an opinion that's his opinion, but he's like, hey, you have your opinion, I have my opinion. Like, it's cool. And that's a really good example. So thanks for showing that video, because not only was it hilarious, but it just showcases like we're all into stuff that's crazy. You know what I mean? We're all spending our money in a way that's dumb. So
especially if you're dressing up as babies in the basement, you know?
Yeah. Where that guy was dressing up like a baby at a football game.
At a football game, yeah.
That's wild.
See, if it wasn't for social media, you wouldn't have
I know, exactly.
It's great. That's great. Yeah, no, it's wild. It's absolutely wild. Yeah, I think you know, life is too short to be mad and to be. It's best if we all just like laugh and have a good time. And hey, we all can have our opinions, but yeah, when it gets toxic like that, it's gross. It's really gross. Yep. Yeah. Exactly. But gentlemen, it's always an honor podcasting with you guys. Really, really good time. Mr. Jay Sherer, I will start with you. Where can the good folks at home find you on social media, sir?
Nowhere. You can't find me on social media. You can find me on Instagram. I don't really post to Instagram that much. If you want to follow me on Instagram, you can follow me on Instagram. But more so, you can check out the YouTube channel, How Stories Work with Jay Sherer. Haven't published there in a while, but still want to. I think the last video on there is the one I did with Tones, where we were talking about, you know, how do you kick off a pilot episode of a TV show? And we talked all about that. It was really fun. Tones is working on a fantastic script that hopefully will get picked up by somebody someday.
Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. You never know, man. You never know. A lot of people have scripts, but some of them get made. And so you can follow me over there. Otherwise, just stay tuned to OG55, because I'll be back before you know it. And you can hear what I have to say and rant about stuff. But I'll still be your friend. Even if we have a difference of opinion, I'll still be your friend.
Exactly. Well said. And Tones Poppy. I'm trying to do the Jay-Z song, but I'm not as good as Jay-Z, obviously. But but Mr. Poppy, if you let everybody home know where they can find you on social media, sir.
Yeah, guys. So I always forget to say this, but TikTok, I do most of my news first on TikTok. So if you guys are interested in film, like movies or TV shows, I put my opinion out there first. So Tones_TV on TikTok. But if you want to reach out to me on any other social media, Tones_TV on the rest of the platforms. And then our podcast, Bad Thoughts Podcast, find that on YouTube and Spotify. Me and the Candid Camper argue and stuff on there. So if you guys are interested in two grown men arguing, you can go to watch us on that. And if you guys want film kind of content, Bad Thoughts Studios on YouTube.
There it is. There it is. Everyone, comment down below with all your thoughts on the fandom, the current state of the fandom, social media, all that good stuff. The Deadpool and Wolverine trailer. What are your thoughts on that? And the Universal Tram tour accident. I know we have a lot of park people that watch this, so I'm sure there'll be a lot of opinions on that as well. Thank you all so much for watching this episode of OG55, and until the next time. 세상이 누구에게나 공평하게 추악해.